Hello, this is Barney Goose, and I still don't know how to do intros. I've talked a bit about this idea on stream, twitch.tv/BarneyGoose, and here is my take on the balancing of Project Playtime. I'll only be covering the monster side, survivor side, and the perks and sabotages. If you'd like to see more of my balancing ideas, drop a like and tell me I'm cool, I guess. Of course. Joel, you're gonna be dead if you don't run right now. Starting off, I'll talk about the general changes that don't pertain to either Survivor or Killer specifically. Good players, with the help of a certain perk, can finish these in about 40 seconds, with the fastest recorded one being 36 seconds, and without perks being 55 seconds. This is a huge problem because if an entire team splits up and everyone does one pillar without anybody being chased, they could finish the game in a minute. My change for this is that the amount of puzzles are increased. I think that each pillar should have 3 memory games, 25 reaction time hits, and 2 piano sequences of 5. This would make it more team-oriented, and it wouldn't just be one person running around doing all the puzzles while the entire rest of the team distracts the monster. Along with that, I feel like it would be a lot better if the puzzle pillar faces were randomized so they weren't always in the same spot every single time, to give more variety. And now, the doors. I feel like it gives a little too much of an edge to the survivors against the monster. Something that would make them less abusable would be to give them a timer for when they can be used again after opening back up. What they could do is when the door shuts, the light in the handle will drain, and it'll open back up once it's out, and start to recharge. Once fully recharged, you can close it again. I also think that it'd be cool if the monster can go up to a door handle and hit it to turn it off. Now, on to the monster changes. Oh, you are a massive bitch. Boxy is probably the best monster in the game at the moment, followed closely behind by Mommy, and then there's Huggy. I have a few changes in mind for him, with the most important one being a cooldown on the spring jump. In its current state, the spring jump is very spammable, which makes it so that he can get around a bit too quickly. With a small cooldown, it'd make it so that he has to decide where he wants to jump to, rather than just using it for general mobility. Moving on to Boxy's arm pull. I feel like he should be slowed down when he's using it, just so it's more of a kind of skill shot rather than just shooting it out whenever you see somebody. Also, sometimes the survivor's roll is kind of disabled after being pulled, which I don't know if that's intentional or not. If it is, give some indication, please. Similar to Boxy, I believe Mommy should also have a short cooldown on her grapple. It should be short enough to where she can grapple onto something while still in the air, but long enough to where she can't just fly through vents constantly and then onto a wall, roof, or whatever the hell she can grab onto. I also think the arm should move faster, and she should move faster towards the arm as well. It would make you want to plan your attack rather than shoot the arm out into BFN. Mommy's webs are a tricky thing to balance. On one hand, they're slow-moving projectiles, and on the other hand, it causes slow-moving people. I feel like it should be more of less shots, more effect, rather than a lot of shots, not a lot of effect as it is now. You'd have to think before you shoot, rather than shoot before you think. And for the love of God, give her the ability to jump. And finally, Huggy. Oh boy, I've got some changes for this guy. He is a very special case. His insta-down dash makes him very, very strong. But that is until you realize that's the only thing he's got going for him. His mini Huggies really need to get some use. All they do is scream once someone gets close, and by the time you get there, they're not there anymore. You have no idea where they went, and you're just like, well, now I'm here. I believe Huggy should have a movement speed buff when someone gets spotted, and the person who is spotted is highlighted for a short duration. This will give Huggy the ability to figure out where people are headed, and give him that mobility that he desperately needs. Right now, there are about 3 sabotages that are currently used the most. Those ones being No Pack, Feeding Frenzy, and No Escape. Since they're pretty much used the most, I'm not going to be changing them because I want to bring all the other sabos up to that level. Right now, sabotages immediately go into cooldown once they're used while the effect is still going. This can cause some issues if a perk like Shutdown is left unattended for too long. So I believe sabotages should immediately go into cooldown once the effect is ended, instead of right as it's used. Now, to the sabotages, we're starting off with Booby Trap. Right now, Booby Trap only really does about a hit from Boxy and makes a noise notification at the pillar. Pretty weak. My idea is that it does what it already does, but also disables the pillar for a short amount of time. And it'll also prioritize pillars that are closer to completion. This would cause survivors to split progress over multiple pillars and make them move around a bit more so they're easier to catch off guard. Shutdown is an alright perk as it disables all the pillars, but at a low level it just really isn't worth running. To shift some of the balance on the perk, I think the generators that you have to restart should auto restart after some time, and it'd take 2 full people to repair, so 4 hands in total. It would make it so that more people have something to do during the sabotage, and if the team is uncoordinated, they'll still be able to progress just after a certain amount of time. This change on Total Lockdown is one of my favorite changes I've come up with. When used, it will also block the vents and close all the train doors except one of them, which will be randomized at each use. I felt that closing the doors just wasn't enough, and also closing off the train doors will make the sabotage useful after the toy is completed. And the doors and vents will open for the monster when they approach the closed off door, or for when a survivor is stuck in a vent. Directionless and Living Nightmare. Yes, I combined 2 sabos, and yes, they both suck. Putting these 2 sabotage together feels like it would work really well since they kinda have the same premise. But there's still more to this. I feel like that the audio should also be muffled. It'd make it a much scarier thing to go up against. Then it'll really live up to that name of Living Nightmare. Is a pumpkin a fruit or a vegetable? It's a vegetable.
It's a squash.
It's a squash? Squash these nuts. Shut up.
Oh.
No!
I've got 2 core changes for survivors, and they're both nerfs. The first one is to retract the hand when a survivor passes through a wall while pulling somebody out of a hole. It should behave just like the hand does in any other interaction. The second is to increase the footstep length on the floor. I feel it's a bit too short, and it'll give more of an incentive to use the perk Leave No Trace. A fair amount of these changes are nerfs to the perks or outright change their use completely. The only one I'm not touching is Leave No Trace, as it gets buffed from the footstep changes. The first one on the board is Power Walker. Oh, Power Walker. The description says that it increases walking speed by 15%, but in reality it increases walking, running, rolling, crouching. Literally just make it so it only affects walking speed and you're good to go. And then there's the alternative, Shadow Walker. At the moment, its barely noticeable 15% crouching speed is just not enough. My suggestion is to increase the speed to 30, 45, and 60%. Although I'm not too sure what the speed would look like in game for sure, but I feel it's good enough. Think Fast is an alright perk for beginners, but right now it only makes the reaction stay longer. And since I changed the puzzle pillars and how they work, this will also take away 1, 3, and 5 reaction time puzzles. With those changes, it would help people who are just starting out, as well as be useful for those who are trying to finish that puzzle faster. In addition to what Genius already does, the patterns will flash 1, 2, and 3 less times, as well as allow you to hit the buttons while they're still flashing the combination. Just like with Think Fast, this makes it easier for those who struggle with the memory puzzle, making the perk useful for both beginner and veterans. Master Pianist, the final perk in the puzzle pillar trinity. I had to take this perk down a peg because, oh lord, is it too good in the state that it's in. Master Pianist will now do 1, 2, and 3 patterns when you press the button to start the puzzle. It can only happen once per pillar, and it can only reactivate once the puzzle it's on is completed. This perk is really hard to balance in the state that's in, so I don't know if it's going to be too good or not. If anything, it's just balanced in my eyes. Probably my favorite perk in the game, Leadership by description heals both you and the survivor that's injured. As long as you're healing someone, you'll heal too. That just does not work in the live game. To make it a bit more balanced, make the perk function as it says it does, but reduce the heal to 2, 3, and 4%. Also, say it doesn't stack, because it doesn't stack, and it really should not. Punching bag! Make it work. Or, try this cool idea I came up with. If you're near somebody and you get hit, both you and the survivor nearby get a temporary speed boost. Similar to how you get a speed boost from pulling someone out of the hole. Give it a cooldown of 120, 90, and 60 seconds, and I think it'd be pretty balanced. And finally, Distant Savior. It's an alright perk, but I feel its use is just too limited at the moment. So maybe add a revive speed to down survivors and reduce the speed to 15, 20, and 25%. After the patch of the quick revives, reviving has become much more tactical to not kill someone quickly. That is where this buff comes in. 1, 2, 3 times per match, you can save someone from the hole and restore a health state once per survivor. What that means is when you pull a survivor out of the hole, they'll gain a heart back, but that cannot happen to them again in that match. And finally, change Distant Savior to just Savior, because that's what you're going to be seen as. And that is my list of changes I would like to see in this game. I'm in no way a game dev or someone that works behind the scenes to know how this would truly affect the game, but I think it would benefit from these changes. If you think my changes are good, leave a like and a comment letting me know what kind of changes you'd make. With that, I hope at least some of these changes are heard, and if not, well, I guess it's just food for thought.